but let's review.
Doesn't this guy sound like a professor in a college or a high school class? Okay, you gotta love the Sunday shows. Scott Bessent, Treasury Secretary. He comes on Meet the Press, and I've been watching this thing, and I watched it a couple of times, and I'm just... You have to watch this guy several times. A lot of these guys you have to do this with to figure out what they're talking about. He's supposed to be a good, smart guy. He probably is. He's just a Trump ass kisser. But he says, well, first, she comes out and says, look, we got a $4 trillion debt. Moody's comes out and says this. Over the next 10 years, if you extend these 2017 tax cuts, this is what you're going to get is $4 trillion in deficit. The great deficit hawks of the Republican Party, they're never going to deficit anything. They always deficit. They've always been the ones that did this. This is all a bunch of crap.
Welcome back. There are new economic warnings after the credit ratings agency Moody's downgraded the United States credit rating one notch from its AAA rating. Moody's citing concerns over the nation's rising debt. It comes as President Trump's tax bill suffered a setback in Congress this past week. Joining me now is Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent. Let's start right there with Moody's downgrading the nation's credit rating, and they do cite the debt. I want to read you a little bit of what Moody's says. It says, quote, if the 2017 Tax Cuts and Jobs Act is extended, which is our base case, it will add around $4 trillion to the deficit over the next decade. Several Republicans, Mr. Secretary, are citing similar concerns. Does the president's tax bill need to do more to address the nation's debt and deficit?
Well, Kristen, first of all, I think that Moody's is a lagging indicator. I think that's what everyone thinks of credit agencies.
Scott Bessent, but Moody's is bad. That's what he says. He says Moody's is bad. They don't know what they're talking about. Okay, you go after the messenger whenever something like that happens. And that's what he did. He goes after the messenger, says how bad they are.
We didn't get here in the past 100 days. It's the Biden administration and the spending that we have seen over the past 4 years. We inherited 6.7% deficit to GDP, the highest when we weren't in a recession, not in a war.
And then he says, well, we've only been there 100 days. It was all Biden's fault, the dirty guy, he destroyed everything and all that. And then he comes up with this number, 6.7. I'll show it to you, and you can get the number right. Of this deficit compared to GDP. Now, it's a positive number if you don't have a deficit spending, and it's a negative number if you do. And he says, worst ever happened, 6.7 or something that Biden had. Now, here's a chart. You know what the worst one was? And worst one since World War II. Well, maybe I'll put that one in. But this comparison of GDP to deficit spending, which I'd never heard of before, and I had to look it up. It's really horrible with Biden. It's not horrible with Biden. It's horrible with Trump. 2020 was the worst. Geez, it was way down, 14.5 or 15 or something, negative number. And then it started going up as soon as Biden came in. So, okay, that's a really good statistic to put out there, but it don't tell what he's wanting it to tell. Anyway, let's go on. Okay, this is a really good one. I just love this guy trying to play these games with taxes and inflation and stuff. He says, okay, inflation is the lowest it's been in 4 years. There's a little dip down. It wasn't very much. I can't even remember what it was, and I'm not going to put the numbers up there, but it did go down a little bit. Yeah, last month, I think. She comes up and says, well, look, the vice president, who was on earlier, said, that tariffs are a tax. Tariffs are a tax, by the way, guys. That's what they are. They're just a tax paid by us that buy the stuff. So he starts trying to turn this thing around and saying tariffs are a tax and taxes are inflationary. Let's pass the tax bill.
People are saying tax increases are inflationary. That when I was testifying before Congress last week, one of the congressmen said that, and I said, well, Congressman, if taxes are inflationary, let's cut taxes. So let's get this tax bill done, bring down taxes, which, according to this line of thinking, should be disinflationary.
What does that got to do with anything? She's talking about tariffs being inflationary, and he's saying, well, let's pass the tax cut bill and all this stuff. He immediately takes tariffs and turns it into, well, let's cut taxes with our fancy new tax bill. This is almost incoherent. He's saying, well,
The single most important thing is the gasoline price, and gasoline prices have collapsed under President Trump.
Gasoline has collapsed under Trump. By the way, it really hasn't collapsed. Maybe it's a little bit lower, but not a whole lot. But anyway, he says, well, that gasoline prices have collapsed, and that's a tax cut.
That is a direct tax cut for consumers.
I'm not sure a tax cut has anything to do with gas prices. If gas prices go up, we get more taxes. If gas prices go down, we get less. That's just totally incoherent. He's just bouncing around trying to find something that sounds good. Then he says, we're in the rescue portion of COVID.
We were in the rescue portion of COVID. The Biden administration was in the recovery portion.
$8 trillion of debt. That was in the rescue portion. Biden was in the recovery portion. It's all smoke and mirrors. These guys just bounce back and forth trying to tell you something and make you believe something that's crazy. Transportation costs are down. The only reason transportation costs are down is nobody wants to go to Canada. Nobody wants to come here from Canada or Mexico. We're embarrassed to go there. Travel is just dropping something fierce between these countries because of these stupid tariffs. He'll grab some stupid thing like that and say, "Oh, this is the reason, we're dropping. Inflation is dropping." And fuel prices, whereas they are down a little bit, they're not down very dang much. He's conflating reducing taxes to tariffs. Maybe if you reduce the tariffs or eliminated them, wouldn't that be smart? Oh gosh, then you wouldn't have any inflation. Duh, that's pretty stupid. Why would we ever want to do that? Okay, I guess I'll have to stop this here. The whole thing was just kind of incoherent from Meet the Press. But anyway, that's it on this one.